Hi, I'm Tayna, and I'm going on a new Fairtrade adventure to find out how important the food we eat from around the world is to us.
I'm Caleb, joining Tayna to find out more about the impacts of climate change and unsustainable farming on our food.
I discover the reasons for the food and water shortage that's affecting many people across the developing world.
How it affects our future and us.
And how being Fairtrade certified can make a difference for farmers.
In our previous episode, we looked at the effects of unsustainable farming and how Fairtrade Premium money is used to access training and advice about how to farm in a way that is sustainable and productive.
But even by farming in a way that is in tune with the land, farmers are still not safe from the threat of food or water shortage. Elliot took me to a farm where he showed me an area where the tea is no longer growing well. As a result, farmers are trying to introduce other crops in the patchy areas like maize instead.
This side is the tea is growing very well, as you can see, and this other side it is struggling. So new tea here will just dry, and the production is very poor this side. So this acts as a boundary whereby you cannot now put more tea on this side. It will be of no importance because the production is very low.
Tea will only grow in well-drained soils with the right acidity and temperature. The edge of this area is known as the brown line. As the climate warms, it causes this area to shift. This means that the amount of land where tea can be grown is shrinking. Patrick explained what impact climate change was having on farmers.
You can imagine where you have 10 acres, you have planted tea, that's your livelihood, and then due to the change in the climate, your production goes down and you have nothing else on your farm that can get you money. It's very bad. Those farmers themselves will tell you, this never used to be. I used to harvest 10,000 kilos per year. Now I'm down to 6,000. Where has the 4,000 gone? The person himself will tell you, this is about climate now. The weather has changed.
In order to get some answers, I took a trip to the Museum of Earth and Sciences in Cambridge, where I met with Dr. Natalie Roberts, a researcher in climate change. I wanted to know how climate change is measured and why it seems to be affecting farmers in developing countries the most. So how do we know climate change is happening across our planet?
Well, we know this mostly from carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere, and this is what's causing the warming. And what we've done is we've looked at ice cores from Antarctica and from Greenland, and that gives us records of the carbon dioxide concentration in our atmosphere over the last several 100,000 years. And we know that the concentration is increasing through time. So over the last 10,000 years, the carbon dioxide concentration was around 280 parts per million. So that was fairly stable. But then just over the last 200 years, since the Industrial Revolution, and there have been more people on the planet burning more fossil fuels, that carbon dioxide concentration has gone up by almost a third to 385 parts per million.
So what impacts of climate change are we seeing at the moment?
Well, for one thing, the weather is getting much more unpredictable. So in places you can have much higher rainfall, causing flooding, whereas in other places you'll have less rainfall, causing drought. Also, the temperatures are increasing, so particularly for places where it's already very warm, the temperatures are rising more and more, which is obviously very difficult then for farmers to predict what the weather's going to be like over the next year, and for them to grow crops or preserve water is getting more and more difficult.
So why is climate change affecting people in developing countries more than in countries like ours?
Well, the reason really is it comes down to the wealth of the country. So a country like ours has the money available to irrigate the crops more, whereas in developing countries they don't have that money, so they rely a lot more on the weather, and if it's unpredictable it makes it much harder for them to grow crops and to preserve the water that they need.
I couldn't get over how unfair it seems that farmers who are already struggling are also being affected most by the changes to our climate. I wanted to know if Fairtrade Premium money could be used in any way to help farmers that are facing these challenges.
Took me to an area deeper into the tea farms where there was a line of indigenous trees to show me what farmers can do to preserve the productive land they have. So what can be done to combat the effects of the brown line shifting?
The best answer is plant trees. Trees, trees, trees.
By creating a barrier of trees, farmers have been able to provide some protection for their crops.
You have kind of like a barrier, a tree barrier along the brown line, because where trees have been planted, there has been a marked improvement in the weather.
Under the shade of the trees, the temperature is lower, creating better conditions for tea to grow. The trees also protect the tea from the winds and slow movement of water when it rains.
So the answer is trees, and the best trees are indigenous trees.
When I arrived back at the factory, I met Andrew, one of the Michimikuru Tea Company's directors. He explained to me just how important fair trade is for the farmers in helping to deal with the effects of climate change.
Fair trade has actually helped the farmers see the sense of doing good farming and improving the quality of their products because of the knowledge they have gained from fair trade and the inflow of premiums to help them sustain their livelihoods. We have been taught by fair trade how to live with that climate change because it is there.
Before I headed home, Andrew suggested I go and visit a nearby school to see a project which has been funded by the Fairtrade Premium. I was interested to see how this has enabled this community to educate the next generation in positive farming practices. When I arrived at the school, I was taken to a nearby forest where the students were being trained in helping the environment by planting new indigenous trees. Michael is a teacher here at the school. He was able to tell me more about the project here and how much this training means for the younger generation.
We have used that project of tree planting in school to teach them the importance of preserving the environment, because when the environment is preserved, it will be preserved for the generation which is there and the generations to come.
Throughout my fair trade adventure, I have learnt that not only does fair trade ensure farmers get a fair price for their hard work, but the Fairtrade Premium enables them to access things that they might otherwise be unable to. The farmers are able to have training and advice about how to farm in a way that's best for the land and in turn best for them, and adapt their farming to deal with climate change. Because of this, they can begin to look forward to a positive future.
Food and drink is vital to all of us, and it links us to people across the world. The products we choose to buy here in the UK can have a massive impact, not only on the well-being of farmers in the developing world, but on the sustainability of our entire planet. We can make a difference
For our generation.